Listen to me carefully right now, because what I am about to speak is not ordinary encouragement. It is not shallow motivation. It is not a passing emotion. It is a divine interruption. There is a moment when heaven leans toward the earth, when God shifts unseen systems, when provision begins moving before the hands can touch it. And that moment is now. You did not arrive here by accident. You are not hearing this by chance. God has already started the movement. And the reason your heart is stirring is because money is already on the way. Not someday, not after everything is perfect. Now, God is sending you money, and if you will stay with me, if you will listen with faith and not with fear, something will change inside you before anything changes in your bank account. Many people believe God only moves after circumstances improve. But I tell you today that God moves first in the unseen, and then the visible world must follow. Before money reaches your hands, faith must reach your spirit. Before provision shows up in your life, expectation must be planted in your heart. God never releases supply into an empty vision. God responds to faith that speaks, faith that sees, faith that refuses to bow to lack. Some of you have prayed for years, yet you prayed from a place of survival instead of authority. You begged instead of believed. Today, God is shifting how you pray. 12 minutes can change everything, not because of the length of time, but because of the depth of faith that fills those minutes. I want you to understand this deeply. God is not poor. God is not limited. God is not confused about your needs. God is not waiting to discover how much rent costs or how heavy debt feels. God sees the numbers you avoid looking at. God knows the pressure you carry silently. God hears the prayers you whisper at night when no one else is listening. And God does not respond to desperation alone. God responds to faith that agrees with His power. When you align your voice with His will, provision begins to move. Money is not the goal. Money is a tool. God sends money to fulfill purpose, to restore dignity, to release peace, to expand vision, and to break the chains of fear that poverty tries to wrap around the soul. You must stop thinking that asking God for money is unspiritual. That lie has kept many sincere people trapped in unnecessary struggle. God cares about your spirit, yes, but God also cares about your daily life. God cares about your food, your shelter, your responsibilities, your calling. When lack dominates your thoughts, it steals your focus from what God has assigned you to do. That is why God supplies, not to inflate pride, but to free the heart. Not to create excess for ego, but to create sufficiency for purpose. God does not shame you for needing money. God invites you to trust Him for it. Faith is not silent. Faith speaks. Faith declares before it sees. Faith does not wait for proof. Faith creates proof through agreement with God. When you pray with faith, you are not informing God of a problem. You are aligning yourself with the solution already prepared. God has storehouses you have never seen. God has channels you do not know. God has people you have not met. God has opportunities hidden in ordinary days. But faith is the key that opens those doors. Fear closes them. Doubt delays them. Complaining blocks them. Gratitude accelerates them. Some of you have been taught to pray politely, cautiously, almost apologetically, as if God might be offended by your need. But God is not offended by faith. God is moved by bold trust. When a child asks confidently, it pleases the heart of God. When you pray expecting provision, you are honoring God's ability, not questioning it. That 12 minutes of focused, believing prayer can shift years of struggle, because faith compresses time. What takes effort in the natural can happen suddenly in the spiritual. You have to see it before you receive it. Vision comes before manifestation. If all you see is lack, you will continue to live in lack even when provision passes by. If all you see is debt, you will miss opportunity because your eyes are trained on fear. But when you begin to see supply, when you begin to imagine freedom, when you allow hope to rise again, your spirit becomes a landing place for blessing. God sends money where faith is ready to receive it. There is a difference between wishing and believing. Wishing is passive. Believing is active. Believing speaks with confidence. Believing gives thanks before the answer arrives. Believing adjusts behavior in anticipation of provision. When you truly believe God is sending money, your posture changes. Your mind shifts. Your prayer changes from if to when. God responds to that shift. Heaven moves when earth agrees. Some of you have been faithful in prayer but fearful in expectation. You prayed, then immediately prepared for disappointment. You asked God, then braced yourself for lack. That inner contradiction weakens faith. Today God is calling you to pray with alignment. Let your words, your thoughts, and your expectations agree. Say what you believe. Believe what you say. Thank God as if it is already done. Because in the unseen realm, it is already... 80 moving. Do not measure God's ability by your past. Your past does not define God's future. What did not work before does not mean it will not work now. Faith is always present tense. God is not bound by yesterday's failures or delays. When you step into faith now, you step into a new moment. 12 minutes of prayer. Today carries more power than years of fear-filled thinking. The moment you pray with confidence, something shifts. You must also understand that money is spiritual before it is material. It flows where faith and purpose align. God does not bless chaos, God blesses alignment. When your heart is aligned with God's will, provision follows naturally. Not always instantly, but inevitably. God is not slow, God is precise. What feels like delay is often preparation. What feels like silence is often strategy. God is positioning you, strengthening you, teaching you how to carry what is coming. Some of you are about to receive more than you asked for. Not because you are perfect, but because God is faithful. God does not reward merit. God responds to trust. When you trust God with your need, you invite Him into your situation. When God enters, limitation must leave. Fear must leave, anxiety must leave, because God's presence carries peace, and peace opens the way for provision. Do not allow guilt to silence your prayers. Do not think you must earn God's help. God helps because He is God. Your responsibility is not to qualify yourself, but to believe. Faith is the sea, currency of heaven. When you spend faith, you access supply. When you hoard fear, you block flow. Today, choose faith. As you pray, do not rush. 12 minutes is not about speed, it is about focus. In those minutes, shut out distraction. Let your heart speak honestly. Declare what you believe God is doing. Thank God for provision already moving. Speak peace over your finances. Speak order over confusion. Speak increase where there has been loss. Words shape reality when they are spoken in faith. You must also release bitterness. Bitterness blocks blessing. If you are angry at past disappointments, if you resent others who prospered while you struggled, that weight will slow your breakthrough. Forgive, release, let go, not for their sake, but for yours. A free heart receives more easily. God pours into open vessels, not clenched fists. Some of you have survived on barely enough for so long that abundance feels uncomfortable. You learned how to endure, but not how to receive. God is teaching you now how to receive. Receiving is not weakness, it is trust. When God sends money, accept it without guilt. Use it wisely. Steward it with gratitude. Expect more because you handle little with faith. There are doors opening that you did not knock on. There are answers coming that you did not chase. There are resources moving toward you that you did not manipulate. This is not because of effort alone. It is because of alignment. God is rearranging circumstances. God is speaking to P, opal. God is shifting opportunities. Your job is to stay in faith. Do not underestimate the power of agreement. When your spirit agrees with God's promise, resistance weakens. Speak agreement daily. Even when nothing seems to change, keep agreeing. Faith does not panic when results delay. Faith remains steady. Faith knows that God does not start what He will not finish. Money is coming in ways you do not expect. It may come through ideas, through favor, through connections, through relief, through unexpected sources. Do not limit God to one method. God is creative. God is unlimited. Remain open. Remain thankful. Remain obedient when God nudges you to act. You are not asking for too much. You are not being selfish by wanting stability. You are not faithless for desiring provision. God placed those desires in you. God wants you free from constant worry. God wants your mind clear to pursue purpose. God wants your hands equipped to help others. That is why God supplies. As you pray, let gratitude lead. Gratitude multiplies what faith begins. Thank God for past help, even if it seems small. Thank God for survival, for strength, for lessons learned. Gratitude builds confidence. Confidence fuels faith. Faith releases provision. Some of you will feel peace before you see money. That peace is a sign. It means the burden has shifted. When God takes over, peace arrives first. Do not ignore that peace. Do not dismiss it. It is confirmation that God is working. You must guard your words after prayer. Do not undo faith with doubt-filled speech. Do not say, nothing ever works for me. Do not say, I'll always struggle. Those words plant seeds of delay. Speak life, speak hope, speak expectation. Even when emotions fluctuate, keep your words aligned with faith. God is not testing you with lack. God is teaching you trust through process. There is a difference. Tests create fear. Process builds strength. You are being strengthened. You are learning how to stand without panic, how to trust without control, how to pray without begging. That strength will sustain the blessing when it arrives. When the money comes, remember this moment. Remember that faith preceded supply. Remember that prayer shifted something unseen. Let that memory anchor you in future challenges. What God does once, God can do again. Faith grows through experience. You are not late. You are not behind. You are not forgotten. God's timing is precise. What is arriving now fits who you have become. You could not have handled it before. Now you are ready. Now your faith is stronger. Now your heart is softer. Now your vision is clearer. As you continue to trust God, expect acceleration. What was slow will speed up. What was blocked will open. What was confusing will become clear. God is not only sending money. God is restoring confidence. God is rebuilding hope. God is renewing expectation. Stay connected to God, not just for provision, but for guidance. Money without wisdom creates problem. Wisdom with money creates impact. Ask God for both. God gives generously to those who trust Him. You are stepping into a season where prayer feels different. It feels confident. It feels expectant. It feels calm. That is maturity. That is alignment. That is readiness. Do not revert to fear when challenges appear. Challenges do not cancel provision. They confirm growth. God is faithful. God is present. God is working. Even now as you listen, something is shifting. Do not rush away from this moment. Let faith settle. Let peace anchor. Let expectation rise. You will look back and realize this was a turning point. Not because of the words alone, but because you chose to believe. Belief is powerful. Belief activates heaven. Belief opens doors no effort can force. Remain steady, remain hopeful, remain faithful. God is sending you money, and the prayer you pray with faith today is already echoing in the unseen, already activating provision, already aligning circumstances, already moving resources, already preparing the way, already shaping outcomes, already lifting burdens, already calming fears, already opening doors, already bringing relief, already restoring dignity, already strengthening your heart, already confirming that you are seen, already confirming that you are heard, already confirming that God is with you, already confirming that lack does not have the final word, already confirming that this season is changing, already confirming that your trust is not wasted, already confirming that your prayers are powerful, already confirming that your faith is alive, already confirming that provision is not a dream, but a reality in motion. Already confirming that what you need is not far. Already confirming that God's hand is active. Already confirming that your life is under divine care. Already confirming that this moment matters. Already confirming that what begins in faith will manifest in time. Now hear this truth deeply, because it will reshape how you interpret every delay and every struggle you have faced. Lack is not proof that God is distant, and waiting is not proof that God is silent. Often waiting is evidence that God is working beneath the surface in ways you cannot yet see. Just as seeds break open underground before they rise above the soil, provision begins in hidden places. God does not rush miracles, God perfects them. What God sends into your life must match the strength of your spirit, the clarity of your purpose, and the discipline of your character. That is why this moment matters so much. You are not just asking for money, you are being shaped to carry it. There are unseen laws at work in the spiritual realm, and one of the strongest is this: expectation pulls provision toward it. When expectation is weak, blessing hesitates. When expectation is strong, blessing accelerates. God responds to expectation because expectation is faith in motion. It is faith that has moved beyond hope and into certainty. You are no longer enduring. If God will provide, you are preparing because you know God is already acting. This inner certainty sends a signal into the unseen realm that you are ready. Many people pray but secretly expect disappointment because disappointment feels familiar. Struggle has been their normal for so long that peace feels strange. But God is calling you out of survival thinking and into abundance thinking. Abundance is not excess. Abundance is sufficiency with purpose. It is knowing that God's supply will always meet God's assignment. When God entrusts you with more, it is because He sees your willingness to steward it wisely, to use it responsibly, and to remain humble regardless of increase. You must understand that fear has a voice, and fear speaks loudly when finances are tight. Fear says you must control everything. Fear says you must worry constantly. Fear says you are one step away from collapse. But faith has a stronger voice when you choose to listen. Faith says God is your source. Faith says your needs are known. Faith says provision does not depend solely on visible circumstances. Faith reminds you that God has sustained you before and will do it again in ways that surpass your imagination. When you pray these 12 minutes, do not allow fear to interrupt the conversation. Silence it with gratitude. Silence it with confidence. Silence it by reminding yourself who God is. God is not surprised by inflation, by loss, by sudden expenses, or by closed doors. God operates beyond systems that limit human understanding. When one door closes, God opens another that leads to a higher outcome. When one stream dries up, God redirects the flow from a greater source. There is also a truth many avoid, but you must embrace it. Generosity positions the heart for increase. This does not mean reckless giving or emotional decisions. It means maintaining a heart that is open, not clenched. A heart that trusts God as the ultimate provider, is not afraid to release. When you release with faith, you declare that God's supply is greater than what you hold. This declaration does not go unnoticed in the spiritual realm. It aligns you with the flow of provision. You are being taught discernment in this season. Not every opportunity is meant for you, and not every open door leads to increase. God gives wisdom along with provision so that you do not confuse motion with progress. Sometimes God says no to protect you from distractions that would drain your energy and delay your breakthrough. Trust those inner restraints. Trust the quiet guidance that keeps you aligned. Obedience protects what faith attracts. Some of you are discovering that your identity is no longer tied to your struggle. For years, hardship shaped how you saw yourself. You defined yourself by what you lacked, by what you could not do, by what you had to endure. God is rewriting that narrative. You are not defined by scarcity, you are defined by purpose. And purpose attracts provision because God needs assigns a mission without supplying the means to fulfill it. Notice how your prayers are changing. They are becoming calmer, more confident, less frantic. That is growth. Panic-driven prayer demands immediate relief. Faith-driven prayer trusts the process. Faith does not rush God, faith rests in God. That rest is not inactivity, it is assurance. From that assurance, wise action flows naturally. You begin to make better decisions, to recognize opportunities more clearly, to respond rather than react. There is also restoration happening in your thinking. Old patterns of worry are losing their grip. Old beliefs that told you this is as good as it gets are being dismantled. God is expanding your capacity to believe. Capacity matters because what you can hold determines what you can receive. As your capacity grows, your life becomes ready for greater flow. Do not be surprised if provision comes in stages. Sometimes God releases enough to relieve pressure first, then increases supply as trust deepens. This is not withholding, this is wisdom. God knows that sudden overflow without preparation can create confusion rather than peace. Each stage builds confidence. Each stage teaches stewardship. Each stage confirms that God is faithful. Be attentive to ideas that come during prayer. Provision often arrives as insight before it arrives as income. God may show you a skill to develop, a path to explore, a connection to nurture, or a decision to reconsider. These insights are seeds. When you act on them with faith, they multiply. Do not dismiss small ideas. Great outcomes often begin quietly. You are also being invited to release comparison. Comparison steals joy and distorts vision. Someone else's journey is not your measure. God custom designs provision according to purpose, not according to envy. When you focus on what others have, you weaken your appreciation for what God is doing in your life. Gratitude sharpens spiritual vision and keeps you aligned with your own path. As you grow in faith, you will notice that peace becomes your indicator. When peace is present, you are aligned. When peace is absent, pause and listen. God often communicates direction through peace. Provision follows peace because peace reflects trust. Trust opens doors that anxiety cannot. You are entering a season where testimony will replace tears. What once caused sleepless nights will become a story of deliverance. What once felt overwhelming will feel manageable. This transformation is not accidental. It is the result of consistent faith. Faith practiced daily becomes faith proven publicly. Remember this always, God is not limited by numbers, but God respects order. When you manage what you have with wisdom, you create space for increase. Order invites blessing. Chaos repels it. Ask God to help you bring clarity, discipline, and structure into your financial life. These are spiritual tools, not just practical ones. There will be moments when doubt tries to return, especially when circumstances test your patience. In those moments, return to what you know, not what you feel. Feelings fluctuate. Truth remains steady. God's nature does not change based on your emotions. When doubt whispers, answer with what God has already done for you. Your faith is not fragile, it is being fortified. Every challenge you overcome strengthens your trust. Every answered prayer, no matter how small, builds momentum. Momentum matters because it carries you forward even when motivation fades. You are not meant to walk this path alone. God often uses community, conversation, and encouragement to confirm direction. Pay attention to words that resonate deeply. They are often confirmations, not coincidences. God speaks through many channels, but always with clarity and peace. As your trust deepens, generosity of spirit will grow. You will find joy in helping others, not from obligation, but from abundance. This joy keeps the flow open. When God sees that blessing multiplies through you, God continues to entrust you with more. Be patient with yourself as you grow. Faith development is a journey, not a switch. Celebrate progress, acknowledge growth. You are not where you were, and that matters. God honors every step taken in trust. What is happening now is bigger than a financial breakthrough. It is a transformation of mindset, a renewal of hope, a restoration of confidence. Money is simply the visible result of an invisible alignment taking place within you. Stay consistent in prayer, not because God forgets, but because faith grows through repetition. Each time you pray with confidence, you reinforce truth in your spirit. Each time you thank God in advance, you strengthen expectation. This consistency builds spiritual momentum that carries into every area of life. You are learning to live from assurance rather than anxiety. That shift changes everything. Decisions become clearer, relationships improve, sleep returns, creativity awakens, peace becomes familiar. All of this creates fertile ground for provision to flourish. God is attentive to the smallest details of your life. Nothing you care about is insignificant to God. When you bring your needs with humility and trust, you invite divine involvement. That involvement brings order. Where there was confusion and supply, where there was lack, remain open, remain expectant, remain grounded in trust. What is unfolding now is purposeful, precise, and aligned with God's wisdom. The seeds you are planting through prayer, gratitude, and faith are taking root, growing steadily, preparing to surface at the appointed time, moving forward with quiet certainty, shaping outcomes beyond what you could orchestrate, aligning resources with responsibility, expanding your vision without overwhelming your heart, strengthening your trust without testing your peace, and unfolding in a way that reflects the faith you have chosen to walk in today. Let me speak to another dimension that many overlook. Timing is not punishment. Timing is protection. God understands what you do not yet see. There are moments when immediate provision would solve a problem, but create a deeper weakness. God delays not to deny, but to mature. When provision arrives at the right moment, it strengthens rather than destabilizes. That is why patience is not passive. Patience is active trust. It is choosing to believe that God's wisdom surpasses urgency, that God's plan is more reliable than impulse. There are seasons when God allows pressure not to break you, but to refine your focus. Pressure exposes priorities. Under pressure, you discover what truly matters and what has merely distracted you. When money is scarce, motives become clear. When provision is delayed, values surface. God uses these moments to purify intention, so that when increase comes, it does not corrupt purpose. You are being shaped into someone who can handle blessing without losing balance. You must also recognize the power of alignment between belief and action. Faith is not waiting idly. Faith moves responsibly. When you pray, listen. When insight comes, act with wisdom. God often answers prayer through direction rather than direct deposit. Direction leads you to places where provision flows naturally. When you obey promptly, you shorten the distance between prayer and manifestation. There is a quiet authority that develops in those who trust God consistently. This authority does not shout, it stands firm. It does not panic, it rests. It does not chase, it attracts. When you live from this place, circumstances respond differently to you. Opportunities seem to find you. Favor surrounds you. This is not coincidence, it is alignment. God honors those who honor Him with trust. Let me remind you that fear cannot coexist with faith at the same depth. One will dominate the other. When fear rises, faith recedes. When faith rises, fear loses its grip. The choice is daily. Each morning, decide which voice you will amplify. Speak faith, even when your emotions resist. Over time, emotions will follow truth. Your inner world will stabilize, and stability invites provision. Some of you are learning that your worth is not tied to your income. This realization is liberating. When self-worth is secure, money becomes a tool rather than a measure. God desires you to be free from the tyranny of comparison and the pressure of performance. When you know who you are before God, you stop striving for validation and start walking in confidence. Confidence attracts trust, and trust opens doors. There is also a lesson in humility during seasons of increase. Humility does not mean shrinking, it means recognizing the source. When you acknowledge God as the provider, gratitude remains alive. Gratitude keeps the heart soft and the mind clear. Pride isolates, gratitude connects. God continues to supply where gratitude flows freely. Be attentive to small confirmations along the way. A bill resolved unexpectedly, a favor granted without effort, a timely opportunity. These are signals that movement has begun. Do not dismiss them. Celebrate them. Celebration reinforces faith. Faith reinforced becomes expectation, and expectation accelerates provision. You are not meant to carry financial stress alone. God invites you to release it daily. When you hand over worry, you make room for wisdom. Wisdom guides decisions that lead to stability. Stability supports growth. Growth expands impact. This is the cycle God intends for your life. As you continue praying with intention, you may notice that your desires are becoming clearer. Confusion fades when faith strengthens. Clarity is a form of blessing because it prevents wasted energy. When you know what matters, you invest wisely. God values stewardship of time, energy, and resources. Faithful stewardship invites greater trust from God. There will be moments when obedience feels risky. Trust those moments. God often stretches faith just before breakthrough. When you step forward despite uncertainty, you demonstrate reliance on God rather than on circumstances. That reliance honors God deeply. Honor invites response. You are also being prepared to recognize true opportunity. Not every offer that promises quick gain is aligned with God's wisdom. Discernment protects you from shortcuts that lead to long-term loss. God's provision carries peace. Counterfeit provision carries anxiety. Learn to distinguish between the two. Notice how your inner dialogue is changing. Where there was once self-doubt, there is now quiet assurance. Where there was once fear, there is now cautious optimism. These shifts are evidence of transformation. Transformation precedes breakthrough. When the inner world changes, the outer world follows. God is attentive to the integrity of your heart. Integrity builds trust. Trust deepens relationship. Relationship invites provision that sustains rather than drains. God desires partnership, not dependency. Partnership means listening, responding, and walking together through every season. Do not be discouraged by temporary setbacks. Setbacks are not reversals, they are adjustments. God redirects without rejecting. When something falls apart, ask what is being realigned. Often what collapses makes space for something stronger. Faith sees redirection as opportunity, not loss. You are learning to pray with authority rather than anxiety. Authority comes from knowing who God is and who you are in relation to Him. When you pray from this place, your words carry weight. They are not desperate requests. They are confident declarations aligned with God's nature. As your faith matures, generosity of heart will increase. You will find joy in blessing others, not because you must, but because you can. This joy keeps the flow of provision healthy. God delights in channels that distribute blessing wisely. Remain vigilant in guarding your peace. Peace is not weakness. Peace is strength under control. When peace governs your decisions, you avoid costly mistakes. Peace creates clarity. Clarity leads to wise action. Wise action results in sustainable growth. You are stepping into a phase where trust feels natural rather than forced. This is progress. Trust that once required effort now feels like rest. Rest does not mean inactivity, it means confidence. Confidence allows you to move forward without hesitation. God is weaving together lessons from your past with opportunities in your present to create a future that reflects His wisdom. Nothing you endured was wasted. Every challenge contributed to your capacity. Every delay refined your discernment. Every prayer strengthened your connection. Stay alert to the ways God may answer unexpectedly. Sometimes provision arrives through relief rather than increase, through reduction rather than addition, through wisdom rather than wealth. Each form serves a purpose. Trust the form God chooses. As you continue on this path, you will notice that gratitude becomes instinctive. Gratitude anchors you during uncertainty and amplifies joy during abundance. It keeps your heart aligned with God's character and your mind focused on truth. You are not chasing provision. Provision is aligning with you as you align with God. This shift changes everything. When you stop striving and start trusting, you move from effort to flow. Flow is where faith and action meet seamlessly. Let your prayers remain sincere, your expectations steady, and your heart open. What is unfolding is intentional, measured, and guided by divine wisdom. The work happening within you is preparing the way for what is moving toward you, shaping timing, refining purpose, aligning resources, strengthening resolve, expanding vision, deepening trust, and establishing a foundation that will sustain every blessing that follows. As you continue to walk forward with confidence, humility, and unwavering faith in God's provision, knowing that what has been set in motion cannot be undone, and what has been promised is steadily unfolding even now as your trust deepens and your path becomes clearer, leading you step by step into the fullness of what God has prepared for you in ways that will continue to reveal themselves as you remain faithful, attentive, and open to the movement already taking place within and around you, guided by a peace that confirms alignment and a confidence that grows stronger with every moment you choose to believe. Let me take you deeper into a truth that transforms how you perceive struggle. God often hides provision inside responsibility. Many wait for relief before they accept responsibility, but God often releases increase when responsibility is embraced first. When you take ownership of what is within your reach, even when it feels small, you demonstrate readiness for more. Responsibility signals maturity. Maturity invites trust. Trust unlocks provision. God watches how you manage the little before entrusting you with much, not as a test to trap you, but as a process to strengthen you. You are not being overlooked, you are being observed. Every choice matters. Every moment of integrity matters. When you choose honesty over shortcuts, patience over panic, wisdom over impulse, you are aligning yourself with the higher order. That alignment creates momentum. Momentum attracts opportunity. Opportunity opens doors that effort alone cannot force. God honors consistency more than intensity. Consistency proves sincerity. Sincerity builds stability. Stability sustains blessing. There is a spiritual posture God responds to, a posture of expectancy without entitlement. Expectancy says, I trust you. Entitlement say, I deserve. One invites favor, the other resists growth. When you expect with humility, you create space for God to act freely. God delights in hearts that trust without demanding, that believe without manipulating outcomes. Such hearts remain flexible, teachable, and ready. Consider how often clarity arrives after obedience rather than before it. Many want certainty before they move, but faith often requires movement before clarity. God gives enough light for the next step, not the entire journey. When you take that step, more light appears. Each step strengthens confidence. Confidence fuels courage. Courage carries you forward even when conditions remain uncertain. You are learning that prayer is not an escape from responsibility, it is empowerment for it. Prayer sharpens perception, it quiets noise, it aligns intention. When you pray with focus, your mind becomes clearer, your emotions stabilize, and your decisions improve. Improved decisions compound over time. Compounding decisions create outcomes that appear sudden, but are actually the result of sustained alignment. Do not underestimate the power of restraint. Sometimes provision grows faster when you say no to distractions. Not every opportunity is meant to be pursued. Discernment protects energy. Energy directed wisely multiplies impact. God values quality over quantity, depth over speed. When you focus on what matters, you create space for excellence. Excellence attracts trust. Trust opens doors. So a truth about resilience you must embrace. Resilience is built through persistence, not comfort. God does not remove every challenge because challenges build endurance. Endurance strengthens character. Character supports calling. Calling attracts provision aligned with purpose. You are not being hardened, you are being strengthened. Each time you choose faith over frustration, you reinforce resilience. Your internal narrative is shifting. Where you once said, I can't, you now say, I will learn. Where you once said, I'm stuck, you now say, I'm growing. These shifts matter. Language shapes perception. Perception influences behavior. Behavior determines outcomes. When your words align with faith, your actions follow with confidence. God also teaches through silence. Silence is not absence, it is invitation. In quiet moments, insight surfaces. In stillness, direction clarifies. When external noise fades, inner wisdom rises. Do not rush to fill silence with worry. Let it refine your awareness. Often the next step becomes obvious when you stop demanding immediate answers. You may notice that your tolerance for chaos is decreasing. This is growth. You are becoming sensitive to misalignment. What once felt normal now feels draining. This sensitivity guides you toward healthier patterns. Healthy patterns create sustainable success. Sustainable success honors God's design for your life. You are also learning that faith does not eliminate effort, it directs it. Effort guided by faith is efficient. Effort driven by fear is exhausting. When you work from trust, your actions are focused. When you work from anxiety, your actions scatter. Focus multiplies results. God blesses focused effort. As your understanding deepens, you realize that money follows value. When you increase the value you offer through skill, integrity, service, or creativity, you position yourself for greater return. God often increases capacity before increasing income. Capacity ensures sustainability. Sustainability preserves peace. Do not despise gradual progress. Gradual growth builds strong foundations. Sudden growth without foundation collapses under pressure. God builds carefully. What God builds lasts. Trust the pace. Trust the process. Trust the wisdom behind the timing. You are becoming more attentive to the quality of your thoughts. Negative patterns are being challenged. Limiting beliefs are being questioned. This mental renewal is crucial. Provision flows through the mind before it flows through circumstances. When your thinking expands, possibilities emerge. Possibilities create pathways. God is not distant from your daily decisions. Every choice is an opportunity to align more deeply. When you invite God into ordinary moments become meaningful. Meaning fuels motivation. Motivation sustains discipline. Discipline produces results. You are also learning that rest is strategic. Rest restores clarity. Clarity prevents burnout. Burnout blocks vision. Vision attracts provision. God designed rest not as luxury, but as necessity. When you honor rest, you honor design. Design supports longevity. There is a quiet confidence forming in you. It is not loud, but it is steady. This confidence does not rely on external validation. It rests in trust. Trust creates calm. Calm improves judgment. Improved judgment leads to wise outcomes. As you continue this journey, remember that faith is strengthened through remembrance. Recall moments when help arrived unexpectedly. Recall times when solutions appeared just in time. These memories anchor trust during uncertainty. Anchored trust remains steady. You are not moving towards scarcity. You are moving towards sufficiency with purpose. Sufficiency frees the heart from constant worry. Freedom allows generosity. Generosity keeps the flow alive. This cycle reflects divine wisdom. Remain open to correction. Correction refines direction. Direction saves time. Saved time compounds results. God corrects to protect, not to shame. Embrace guidance with humility. Your path is becoming clearer, your steps more confident, your trust deeper. What once felt heavy now feels manageable. What once seemed impossible now feels within reach. This transformation is not accidental, it is the fruit of alignment. Stay attentive, stay faithful, stay grounded. The unfolding continues, quietly yet powerfully, shaping outcomes, aligning resources, strengthening resolve, expanding understanding, deepening trust, refining purpose, and steadily revealing the provision prepared in advance, moving in harmony with your growth, matching your capacity, honoring your faith, and responding to your continued willingness to walk forward with confidence, humility, and unwavering trust in God's wisdom and care as each step builds upon the last, carrying you further into clarity, stability, and provision that reflects not chance, but intentional design, unfolding moment by moment as you remain aligned, receptive, and steadfast in belief, allowing what has been set in motion to continue its course, guided by wisdom, sustained by trust, and shaped by the quiet certainty that what is unfolding is purposeful, precise, and already in progress. Now let this moment become a mirror for your soul. Do not let these words pass through you without leaving a mark. This is the hour to examine your heart honestly, without excuses and without fear. Ask yourself, where trust has weakened, where fear has spoken louder than faith, where worry has replaced confidence in God. This is not a moment for guilt, it is a moment for awakening. God is not condemning you. God is inviting you to rise above survival thinking, inviting you to return to purpose, inviting you to live with a heart anchored in trust rather than anxiety. Stand still for a moment within yourself and recognize how close God has been all along. In every delay, God was present. In every struggle, God was attentive. In every unanswered question, God was working with precision. You were never abandoned, never unseen, never ignored. The breath in your lungs is evidence of care. The strength you still carry is proof of sustaining power. The hope you feel right now is confirmation that God is calling you forward. This is your challenge. Stop living as if you are alone in your burdens. Stop carrying what was never meant to crush you. Release control, not into uncertainty, but into the hands of God who orders steps, aligns timing, and supplies exactly what is needed at the appointed moment. Choose to trust not only when it is easy, but especially when it is difficult. That choice is the doorway to transformation. Let your prayers become bolder, not louder. Let your faith become steadier, not rushed. Let your obedience become intentional, not emotional. Walk with awareness that every step taken in trust reshapes your future. Refuse to speak defeat. Refuse to surrender to fear. Refuse to believe that lack defines your destiny. God defines your destiny, and God is faithful. Renew your purpose today. Realign your priorities. Let your life reflect trust rather than tension, gratitude rather than grievance, expectation rather than doubt. Draw closer to God, not out of desperation, but out of confidence. Confidence that God hears, confidence that God responds, confidence that what has been promised is unfolding in His time. Carry this truth with you. You are not waiting for God to act. God is waiting for you to trust fully. As you walk forward, let faith guide your decisions. Let peace guard your heart, and let trust anchor your soul. What is moving toward you cannot be stopped. What is being shaped within you cannot be wasted. And what God has begun will continue to unfold as you choose to walk closer, listen deeper, and live with unwavering confidence in God's wisdom, provision, and unfailing care.